So are you feeling like you are in a bit of a funk at the moment? I've had lots of ladies reaching out to me recently saying exactly that. And there's a combination of things going on here, I think. First of all, I think it's that time of year, and I definitely get affected by the change of weather, and the greyness. Although we've had some pretty good weather around recently, which has been quite nice. But I think we're just coming up to that time where there's lots of bugs going around, and I think energy levels are really dipping. And it's been a really hard year, and there's so much to consider in terms of understanding the emotional impact that we've been the emotional impact of the year, but also like the emotional impact of carrying everybody else's load, in particular our children's. So I think that's a definite part of what is going on at the moment. And then I think the other part of it, which I don't know whether or not you relate to, I've spoken about it a couple of times before, is that I think it's this phase of life. I mean, it's definitely this phase of life for me, or I'm going into it, and certainly for a few other ladies as well, where hormones are starting to change, and I think bodies essentially are starting to change. I didn't realise it happened in your early 40s. I thought it happened later than that. But then I suppose thinking about it, when I was younger, when I was like in my teens, like early 40s, mid 40s seemed really old. And now it doesn't seem like any age at all. Gosh, I mean, it really doesn't seem like any age at all. So it feels bizarre to be thinking about kind of changes and menopause at 42. But I think that's the reality. I think that's a reality for a lot of women. And so if that does relate to you, if you think it's that phase of life that you're going into now, or maybe it's something else, maybe there is a low level depression, or even not low level. Maybe there's depression in its full glory. We have to be very careful with depression, because depression isn't sitting at home under a duvet crying all day long, and not wanting to brush your teeth. Depression can come in all different guises, and certainly the women that I know that have experienced depression professionally and personally do a great job of slapping on that smile, and carrying on. And I can think of many women who, when I've found out, when we've spoken about it, I've heard about it, you would never have guessed it. Just absolutely never have guessed it. So I think, really, regardless of what label you call your funk, there are some really basic things that you can do to look after yourself. And I think the first one has to be to acknowledge it, for what it is. If you notice that you are changing, like that your emotional well-being has changed, that your energy levels have changed, or however it is manifesting to you, then the first thing to do is to acknowledge it, and not to just push it past as just something that is just going to change, something that's going to sort itself out. Maybe it will sort itself out. Maybe it absolutely is a phase, but you have to acknowledge it as part of the process. You can't just pretend that it's not there and it's not happening. So acknowledge it for what it is, and be okay with sitting with that and accepting that. As I said, regardless of whether you're thinking that it's hormonal, whether it's stress, whether it's lockdown, whether it's a culmination of life events, or nothing that you can put your finger on. It doesn't really matter. You just need to acknowledge how you're feeling and be honest with yourself about how you're feeling. And then there are like, as I said, this is basic level stuff. But basic level stuff, just because it's basic, it doesn't mean it's easy to do. And we're all very good at knowing what we need to be doing. We're not very good at doing it. Making sure that you have time for yourself. So as a busy working mum, that is not easy to do. But finding the time to do whatever it is you need to do. So I've got a lady that I know who always makes time to sit down and read. We'll always prioritise that little bit of downtime. I've got another lady that I know that will always make time to meditate. Somebody else always will get up very, very early in the morning and go running. Like, whatever it is that you need to do to prioritise your own emotional well-being. Personally, I make sure I get into bed nice and early because that's just my switch off time, and then I don't need to move. I can just sit there and just read, watch a bit of TV, like whatever, just chill out. Mind what you're eating and drinking. We all know that eating and drinking, whatever we are putting into our body, has a massive impact on our emotional and physical well-being. So moderate if you need to moderate. Alcohol is a stimulant, but also a depressant, so it feels good at the time. It can often leave you feeling low in the days afterwards. So be very mindful of that, especially as I suppose as we're going into we are in our second lockdown now, so we need to be very mindful of that. And exercise. Make sure that you're doing something to get your heartbeat up, something to get that blood pumping, and more importantly, something to get those happy hormones flooding your brain. And then the last thing, I think there is definitely something around either journaling or meditating and really giving yourself that quiet space. So whatever you were or weren't doing for your me time in the beginning is not the same as downloading with meditation or with journaling. All of those things, as I said, basic things to do, not so easy to implement. So acknowledge what is going on for you. Find a little bit of time in the day that's just for you. Make sure that you are eating and drinking well. Do exercise and download. Sounds simple, doesn't it? Gosh, I wish I could do all of these things as easily as I can talk about them.